So I'd like to introduce a lesser known master teacher plant. This is commonly referred to as the seerseeker because of its pattern. And there is very, very little actual data on the usage of this plant. There are some references, and I think its Keeper Trout has like the book with all the usage and reports on different analogs and additives of ayahuasca. And this one, it didn't specifically mention the species, it just mentioned the genus. It's geo something, I don't have it in front of me, but it just mentioned the geo genus and not the specific species. And the way I reached that this is the correct species is there's a video on YouTube. It's fairly old now, I think around 10 years old, where there are explorers that talk with a native in Peru. Yeah, I think it's Peru. It could be Ecuador, but I think it's Peru. And he goes about the rainforest and shows different types of psychotria that they use for their ayahuasca brews. The Capi, there's, as we know, a few variations, but this indigenous, he shows a few psychotria that are considered inactive. And there's like the white branca, which is white, and then the black, and different types of psychotria. And from the enough research that I've like dug into this, most are considered inactive, or they have other alkaloids which aren't generally favored in the ayahuasca brew. But the most interesting part that I found in the video was when he reached the final additive, and he reached down to the forest floor and he reached and picked a leaf of the seerseeker. The appearance is quite distinguishable. There's the purple underleaf, and the ripples and the leaf color and texture is quite distinguishing, so it's easy to identify this plant. And he goes on to say that it's his favorite plant and he wants to cultivate a lot. In the forest, he starts showing that he has like a row of only this plant, and he mentions that he actually stopped using ayahuasca for a few months because he didn't have access to this additive. In his words, he mentioned that without this, you tend to take ayahuasca as like a whatever, you don't appreciate it as much. And with this, it helps you to, in his words, see the universe and understand its workings. The way that he described the experience, I thought was very, very interesting. It kind of sounds more like a 5-MeO, possibly, but this plant has been tested, and from as far as I can see from the reports that are online, which are very, very little, there's no known active alkaloid in this plant. But it is active, they just don't know exactly what it is. The Trout book on the plants, it doesn't mention the yields from what I remember. It just mentions its properties, and the effect that he mentions is you see patterns from the tribe that uses this additive. They see a pattern with the ayahuasca. Most seem to have discontinued use of this and opted for Psychotria verdis, which they didn't have access to initially, or they didn't know of its usage. But in some places, the Psychotria, which in their language literally translates to witch worshipping or something to that nature, like dark religions or dark magic, and some don't use Psychotria at all. They use just the Cappy as the base and that alone, which was what initially I tried the Cappy on its own for its visual experience on its own, and it does have the profound experience at a high enough dose, but I think the counter effects are too vast for that. But yeah, this is a plant that will take a while for me to experiment more with, since there's zero information on the dosage and how it's prepared. I opted initially for a single leaf. I tried that at my normal harmless dose, and there was zero effect. So it was around I think half a gram fresh and around 10 yeah, and then 0.10 or 100 milligrams dried, the leaf, at the dosage I tested, and it was completely inactive. There was no placebo effect, there was nothing at all. So slowly I'll be increasing over the months and years ahead. And yeah, I'm not suggesting anyone try this. This could be poisonous, but I doubt it. There are two other in this genus, the Geo genus. There's a leaf that's completely almost black. It's like a very dark purple shade. And there's another one I can't remember off the top of my head. This plant here in Brazil was fairly expensive. I got this as a semi-rooted cutting. I paid around $30, which again I think is very, very expensive for this plant. In the States, it's around the same price. I believe you can even find some for $15. It may come larger, but I'm quite satisfied with my purchase. After 2 months now, 2 or 3 months, I'm starting to see new growth. Here's a new sprout. I have a new leaf uncurling, and I see a new leaf coming out of this stem. And yeah, it's a bit finicky at first. I didn't increase the humidity or anything. I water this 2 times a week, same as my Psychotria, and it seems to be handling itself quite well. It's, again, a very unique plant. Some of you may even have this plant and not know its entheogenic usage, since it's quite rare to read about, and hopefully more people will research it. I plan on making a new thread on Nexus to see if anyone's interested in doing a new analysis on the plant, since they do testings with laboratory equipment. They can identify if there is any active alkaloid, any active known alkaloid. But its usage is reported and by 2 different sources. Firstly being trouts, ayahuasca additives and analogs. It's stated there. And again, this video, which I'll link to in the description. Where the native shares his experience with the usage of this plant. Yeah, just sharing the plant that I have. The seerseeker plant. Very attractive.